Hey everyone, welcome to Walking with Warburg. It's Allison. If you haven't heard my story, go ahead and go back and watch my other videos. But I was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago, and I'm doing a ketogenic metabolic protocol to heal myself. It's working pretty good. Mixed results a little bit here and there, but in general, I am way healthier than I was when I got cancer, and I think I have less cancer than I did when I started. I am doing a combination of the standard of care with my metabolic protocol. Um, but largely in these videos, I just kind of want to share my story and what I go through every day. It's just, I never record my videos every day because I'm always worried about my background. I'm worried about editing. I'm worried about what I look like. I'm worried about all the things that really fucking don't matter in life. So I decided today, while I'm doing another mundane task, that I would just record it and update you on how things have been. So my last video, I put a nose tube in. It was an 8 French Dopphoff tip. Oh, sorry, no, sorry. It was an 8 French, just a standard tip. The one I tried before that was the 12 French Dopphoff tip, and I didn't like it. It hurt going in. Well, it didn't hurt. It was really uncomfortable, let's put it that way, going kind of back and around the back of my nasal cavity, because the Dopphoff tip is kind of like short and hard, whereas the standard tip is longer and quite flexible, like as flexible as the tube itself. And then, of course, 8 French is a smaller diameter size. So that one was totally tolerable. In fact, it felt like a dream putting in compared to the 12. Anyway, I wore that for like a week, and I don't know why I didn't do any videos. It was just a busy week. I was starting my protocol, and I started slow in terms of using it for feeding. What I immediately started using it for was my medication. So one of the new meds I've added to this protocol is, I think it's SPB for short. It's used for urea disorders, but it also reduces the amount of circulating glutamine you have in your bloodstream. So I intend to take that every 3 hours for like 3 days before my hyperbaric. That's a lot. And it's almost like it's weight-based, but you know, if I were just to eyeball it, it would be like a tablespoon of a disgusting powder every 3 hours, except at nighttime when I'm sleeping. So that was my first thing, was okay, let's mix this stuff up and inject that into my NG tube. Because again, the whole purpose of trying the NG tube was to bypass my mouth, because I'm sick of food. I hate food. I hate food. I mean, okay, I'll be more clear. I like food. When I go to a restaurant and it's cooked and it's fabulous, I don't have to do the work. And I like it to be free as well. So I don't do that because I can't afford that. So I cook my food. And then because I am on a strict 4-to-1 ketogenic diet, it's not like nice restaurant food. It is it's okay if you just happen to eat it like once or twice, but if you're eating the same things over and over and over, even ribeye, I'll get to the point where I'm like, I can't eat another bite of ribeye, I'm gonna get sick. I just can't do it. Like if you're eating ribeye 5 times a day, every day with butter on it, it just, your body has an aversion, and all of a sudden you're just like, I can't do it anymore. So, you know, I went through a whole bunch of trial and error on what I can actually eat that doesn't mess up my glucose, and it's limited. And it's also difficult to expand what you can eat when you're trying to measure it meticulously. Like, the best way I can suggest to people is you just literally start with nothing, and then you add in something crazy fatty that has your protein. For me, 60 grams of a ribeye cooked in half a tablespoon of butter with another half a tablespoon of butter on top is a 300 calorie 4-to-1 meal, and it tastes delicious. And then I eat that like 3 times a day, or sorry, 4 times a day. So then it's like, okay, that I can keep my glucose in the threes, no postprandial spike. Okay, good, got it. That's a good food that doesn't affect my glucose if I eat it in those quantities at that frequency. So now let me find another thing. Okay, so it turns out one scrambled egg with an extra egg yolk, so essentially one whole egg, one egg yolk, scrambled together, cooked in half a tablespoon of butter with another half a tablespoon of butter on top afterwards, salt and pepper, whatever. Great, awesome. Now I can eat two things and have no postprandial spike. Now, obviously I don't eat them together, but I could alternate. Okay, what else can I eat, right? So you go through this trial and error system, but the problem is you can only really test it if your glucose is perfect. If you have some random event that makes your glucose go up, you now have to pause all food testing, right? And now you're just going right back to steak and eggs. And it's too much for me. And I can't afford to hire a dietitian to do this stuff for me. I mean, I can, I will, I'm going to, I am. I guess it just took me a super long time to find someone who could help and would help, because most dietitians are like, what? That's not how you eat proper. Anyway, and I don't have time at like $250 an hour to pay someone to teach them what I'm doing. I'd rather just hire a dietitian who's already trained in therapeutic ketogenic diets. Anyway, I found someone. I'm super happy about that. I will have an appointment with her in a few weeks. So far, I've only had a consult. But in the meantime, going back to my nose tube, or my NT tube, I put it in. I did it for a week. It was awesome getting the meds in. It was weird though. I could kind of taste the meds, even though my mouth was bypassed completely. It was like, I would just do bolus feeding. So like with a syringe, squirt it into my tube, which is, you know, whatever, this much hanging out of my nose. I just squirt it in. It would just go right down to my stomach. And I don't know why, but it was like I had this feeling like, oh, I could taste that. Wasn't that good? But it didn't really bother me until I was like, okay, now I'm going to introduce my whey protein and my oil, because that was going to be, that's kind of the major experiment. Was I'm going to wear this thing for 2 weeks. I'm going to inject my food, which was going to be a grass-fed organic whey with 2 tablespoons of oil, mixed in however much water I need to make it thin enough to get down the tube, right? And I was going to do that every 3 hours. I don't have to taste it, so who cares, right? And hopefully that'll just keep my glucose nice and steady for multiple weeks, and I'll just do the best protocol ever. I'll be like perfect protocol, and I'll be able to just close this chapter once and for all. Does this work or not if you achieve perfection? So anyway, I guess it was like a week into it. I was like, okay, I'm ready with my protein powder. I mix it up, mix my oil, mix my water, put it in my syringe. And I'm not kidding you, but pushing that in, it was only like 50 cc's. Pushing that in, I actually started gagging. I don't understand. I don't understand why I would be gagging when it's simply following a tube. Like, I can't taste it. I can't really feel it. You can sort of feel like if I had warmed it to body temperature, I suppose, I wouldn't have been able to feel it go down the tube. But when you push stuff in the tube that's hot or cold, you can feel the temperature like going down. So it's probably all I could feel was the temperature. But for some reason, my body just had this like reaction where I was literally like gagging to the point where I was going to throw up. And all I was doing was injecting like food into like liquid food, liquid nutrition into an NG tube. And then of course my mind went right to fear. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I throw up and like the bottom of the tube starts coming up backwards and gets lodged in my throat? So I was like, okay, no more, no more. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to not be gagging, because if I'm going to gag while injecting this and want to puke, then I might as well just drink it, because that's the exact same reaction. in hindsight, I should have kept it in at least to administer my medications. But instead, I just pulled it out and got myself a good night's sleep. And since then, I've been replanning how I'm going to do this and eating solid food. So back to the making food, making extremely fatty food that doesn't make you get sick after a while. And one of the things I did last week, actually I wasn't measuring last week. I kind of just gave up, right? Pull out the tube, go back to solid food. And then rather than measuring all my macros exactly, I was just like, fuck it, just eat fatty food, Allison. And I found this local sausage product up in the Cowichan Valley. And it was called, they were called like little sausage bombs. It was like a cheddar jalapeno sausage, little torpedoes, like tiny little 2-ounce suckers. And of course, when you're getting like local or small production packaged items, it's often really hard to get all the labeling and the macros, you know, so I didn't even bother trying. I was just like, whatever, you know, 2 of those should be fine if they're super fatty. I'll just throw a little extra butter on that and can't go wrong. So I was eating those, which were delicious. And then also, I'm super sick of macadamia nuts. I've been eating macadamia nuts for like 2 years and I'm tired of it. So I was like, what can I do to just make them taste different? And so I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll make like chocolate covered macadamia nuts because I had a friend from the United States send me some allulose, thank goodness. And allulose, I mean, doesn't affect your state of keto. I mean, as long as you don't overdo it, but it's the same with anything. And it actually tastes like sugar. It doesn't have any weird, gross aftertaste. No insulin spike, nothing like that. I don't know. People are saying it's actually healthy for you, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows what anyone knows or what's true anymore? All I know is it's not affecting my glucose and it makes things taste like yummy. So take a little bit of coconut butter, mix it with some allulose and mix it with some cocoa powder and like 100%, you know, cocoa powder. And then there you got it. So I started making these little chocolate and then rolling it in like unsweetened shredded coconut because that is fatty and fiber and has texture. And anyway, so I made these last week and again, I wasn't measuring them. I wasn't like, oh, here's my 30 grams of macadamia nuts like I usually do. Instead, I would just grab a handful and eat them. And I was like, oh, that's good. Yummy. And my glucose was magic last week. And when I say magic, I mean perfection. Like I could not have asked for better GKI. My glucose was like 3.2 and my ketones were 4.3 or something like that. It was like absolute perfection. And then I'd measure a little bit later and it was like, oh, my glucose is 2.9 and my ketones are 4. And then I measure again, it was like, oh, my glucose is 3.2 and my ketones are, you know, 3.5. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything different than I normally do, except not caring, not stressing out. I was just like, fuck it. Just eat fatty food. Not measuring, but, you know, not gorging. And my glucose was amazing. And then one night, or one day, I went out. I mean, when I go out, I also screwed everything up. There's too much going on when you're doing this protocol, especially when you're like, I don't know, doing it maybe the way I'm doing it, where I'm like taking medication every 3 hours and I've got this I have to do at this time, this I have to do at that time. I go to physio 3 times a week. I'm doing hyperbaric every second day. And then making bloody meals all the time. So, a lot going on. If I leave the house, I tend to miss a dose of something or miss eating. And so that's what happened. I missed eating the other day and I was super hungry and my glucose had been so good. Maybe I got a little bit cocky and I was like, I'm going to have, what did I have? Oh, so I was going to have some of those little sausage suckers. But I was so hungry. I also put a piece of carbonate bread in the toaster. And I grabbed, so I put a piece of carbonate bread in the toaster. That came out. I like put a whole tablespoon of butter on it and a piece of cheddar cheese. And then I had some delicious sausage stuffed with cheese slices and jalapenos. And then also after that, I ate a bowl of frozen raspberries. It's probably like a cup of frozen raspberries. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have lousy glucose. My ketones will be down. You know, it probably won't blow my ketosis, but my ketones will be down. My glucose will be up. Anyway, I wake up in the morning. Nope. Absolutely perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I think my glucose was like 3.2 millimoles. We're talking millimoles here for all you Americans. And I was almost mad about it because I just overate. And I ate like raspberries, right? I ate things that would probably normally just be something that's going to spike my glucose. And no, it was perfect. So I don't know. Maybe it's the lack of stress. Anyway, so I got cocky again. I was like, yeah, I can eat raspberries. Yeah, baby. So then I ate some raspberries the other day and nope. Now my glucose was 5 the next day, all day. Didn't matter what I did, I couldn't get it down. So, but I also ran out of my chocolate covered macadamia coconut bomb thing. So now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe the secret to my success was actually these chocolate covered macadamia nuts. And I am going to go back to the nose tube because I now can't get those meds in every 3 hours. And yeah, so this is not the perfect protocol. That's going to happen my next protocol, but I'm still trying to make this a good one, right? Like I'm just not doing all of the additional meds that I wanted to try this protocol. I did it for the first two days, but not the next. And this protocol is supposed to be over like March 5th, but I might do like a couple extra days or something like that. We'll see. Anyway, that's what's new. Thanks for watching.